Alright, so just like that, we're back. I was thinking maybe I would just do 2 seasons and just do Boardwalk Empire Season 3 and 4 in one video. Because I finished Season 3 like 3 or 4 days ago, I think. I can't keep track of time anymore. But, I don't know, it's been a weird experience where I haven't really felt like the urge to watch the first episode of Season 4 yet. But I decided, since I hadn't done that, because I remember last time I was like, I have to record this Season 2 thing now because I have to start Season 3. But I don't really feel the urge for Season 4, so the opportunity has presented itself, so I may as well do a Boardwalk Empire Season 3 review, recap, whatever the fuck we're doing over here on the second channel. I don't think the first one got any comments. I wonder if there's anybody watching. There was one person on Twitter that engaged in some Boardwalk Empire discourse with me. I don't want to look it up because then we'll get spoiled. Oh, and I linked all my channels over here in my channel thing. I don't know if this video will be longer or shorter. It'll probably be shorter than the last one. If not for the fact that I'm only talking about one season. If for the fact that I haven't taken any notes for this fucking video, which I did a lot of notes for the last one. So this is all going to be off the top. Yeah, not a single comment. So comment if you're making if you're here, if you're seeing it, if you are listening, if you've seen the show, if you have any thoughts on the show, it'll be greatly appreciated. But Season 3 might be my favorite season so far. I'm trying to, because last time I went back through all the episodes really quick and just scrolled through them on binge to see like, oh, this is what happened in this episode. It's sort of acclaimed. This is a very impromptu decision about 20 minutes ago to do this. So I've got this up, the Wikipedia up, just for maybe a bit of a guide here. Season 3, it's interesting because the last like 5 episodes I watched in 5 hours. It was the most I've binged this show so far. Maybe like the second most I've ever binged anything. I'm usually not a very binge person. Even this isn't a big gag because the streaming service I watched this on was called Binge, but which is an Australian exclusive streaming service that outside of Australia you cannot get, I don't think. So sucks to be anybody outside of here, I guess. But I usually am not into binging things. I usually get bored doing the same thing for more than an hour. I usually can't play video games for more than an hour unless it's fucking Pokemon, because those are some nostalgic tangles that series has gotten me. But like for 5 hours, from like 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., I watched the last 5 episodes of the show, and I was fucking having a great time, I must say. It's the best span of episodes. The only other time I binged anything for more than that is I'm pretty sure I watched like 9 Mad Men episodes of like season 5 or 6 in one day. I remember feeling like shit that day, not doing any work. God damn, that was a day. But yeah, I remember just like all day it was just Mad Men. That was great. I still think Mad Men is better than Boardwalk Empire, I think, but we'll get into the comparisons later. When I think of Season 3, I just think of Owen in the box. Spoilers for everything, but God, is that a moment. We're just going to start there. To Season 3, maybe we'll do an overview. Does it have an overview here? It's about Rossetti. Now, the only Mad Men scene the only Boardwalk Empire scene I'd ever watched. There were 2 scenes I'd seen from this series before I'd watched it, which was like 2 years ago when I was like, maybe I'll start watching Boardwalk. Let me see some of these scenes. I think the first one I ever saw was a scene. It was definitely a scene of Nucky, who was just Steve Buscemi, who I recognized, and he was talking to somebody about killing somebody. I think it was the scene when Jimmy comes back at the end of season 1 to rejoin, because I remember it being in an office. I don't really remember the person he was talking to, but he was talking to somebody about killing somebody, and they were having a conversation about, I want to hear you say it, and I think that's exactly what Jimmy does in that scene. And the other one was the scene with Rossetti in episode 1 of season 3, where he goes through and he shit talks everybody in the room and says and gets mad at Nucky. I remember watching that one. Which is a fun scene, nonetheless, but yes. But those are the 2 scenes I'd seen. So I knew Rossetti, so I was sort of waiting for him to show up. Well, I guess I wasn't waiting for him because I consciously didn't really think about it. Like, while I was watching season 1 and 2, I'm not like, when is he showing up? Get this fucking antivirus thing off my screen. But like when I saw him, I was like, yes, I remember all these things now. But Rossetti, I'm pretty sure I read like on some review things. I think it might even be on the Wikipedia thing down here. We do actually have recaps for each episode down here, which could be helpful if we get too off track. But this is Rossetti yet. Bobby Cavalier? I don't know how to say names. Leave me alone. Other people that joined the cast? Oh no, these are people that left the cast. Oh no, sad. I'm so sad Lucy isn't in it anymore. Where's Lucy? Bring her back. Apparently she was big into the Me Too movement. So I read that on a Wikipedia page as well, I think. So that's sad. But, god damn it. Angela. I don't know if the Angela or the Owen moment is sadder. The Angela was more shocking. There's been 3 big deaths, I think, that have shocked me or affected me. Jimmy's was a big plot moment, but it's like it had to happen. Jimmy had sort of... fuck. I know I couldn't remember his name last time, and I remember... Richard, the dude with the mask. He sort of has this same opinion as I do of sort of like Jimmy was playing the game. It's not that sad that he died, but Angela had to be avenged. Richard kills... boy chick in the very first episode, which is funny because you start to think, because it's kind of odd that he's around. It's like, how does this dynamic between him and Nucky works? And then he's trying to get his own distillery or whatever, and then you start meeting his family. And you're like, I don't want to feel like I don't want to like him. Like, he killed Angela. Fuck him and his dumb wife. And then you're like, I guess I'm falling for it. And the end of that scene, Richard opens the door and just shotguns him in the face. The wife is screaming. You're like, yeah, fuck him. Let's go, Richard. So. But Angela was a shocking death. We sort of started talking about Rossetti. We'll get back to him. Owen, I could tell was going to die, and same with Kent, Miss Kent, who I really, really liked as well. I knew she was going to die. They actually play into it in the end of like season of like episode 4. Or maybe it's 3? No. Maybe it's like 5 or something. But where like Nucky slowly... The things with Rossetti are heating up, and he like slowly enters her apartment in New York, and it's sort of like drawing it out to be like, oh no, he's going to find her and she's going to be like shot or something, or disgustingly mutilated or something and fucked up by Rossetti and his men. And he slowly gets in there and she's just fine. Because I think the show is fucking with you because I don't know, it seems so obvious that she was going to die. She's going to be... Because she's so cool. And immediately you like her a lot. And it's like, well, I've seen this a million times in The Sopranos and Mad Men. These like seasonal love interests for the main character are either going to get killed off, or Don's going to fuck it up, or Tony's going to fuck it up or something. Tony, a lot of them did die from Tony, right? No, one of them got all burned. Gloria, of course, killed herself. Who else was there? Who else was like... Don had a lot more love interest than either of them, which... I mean, John Hamm, can you question? Nucky Thompson, over here, fucking Steve Buscemi is not exactly John Hamm. But, so you can tell it's not like, she's only going to be in it for a season. I fucking know it. And they start teasing you with, like, that last scene in that episode where it's like, oh no, he's going to be dead. And it's just, like, accepted. Like, I absolutely was 100... I would have bet my fucking life that she was going to die this season. And it's still fucking... You're still like, because they're walking together, like, with Lucky and Rothstein and Nucky. They're all walking through the city, and you're like, oh no, she's in the city, fuck me. It's also scary because Rothstein owns the building she lives in, so he could give it to Rossetti. That could be a plot point at any point. And things like that. So it's like, there are many opportunities for them. There are many open-ended writing loops for them to kill her off. And it's like, well, one of them's going to be taken up. And then the explosion happens. And the whole next episode is him dealing with it. It's a really great episode. It's the closest thing we get to last season with the Jimmy episode, the dream sequence. I still think, though, that like last run of episodes in season 2 are better than the last run of episodes in season 3. I still don't think anything's as good as that Jimmy episode with Angela repeating the line, Jimmy, I have to leave, or whatever. That's just ingrained into my mind as one of my favorite moments in all of media right now. And I don't think season 3 has a moment like that. I still, like, all I think about with season 3 of Boardwalk Empire, the first thing that pops into my mind is Owen in the crate. Because I was so certain Owen was going to die in the beginning. Like, when him and Margaret start hooking up again. There was something about it where I was like, he's guaranteed to die. There was something, they were teasing something. Firstly, they play into the her and what's his girlfriend's name? It's not Jackie. It's Katie. Like they play into that a lot. She doesn't work for the Thompsons anymore. They're always in her room, sexing and things like that. And it's very cute, and then we're sort of fucking that up with the Margaret thing. There was something. I can't explain it now, but I was certain he was going to die. And then when they started talking about leaving together, I'm like, well, obviously this isn't going to happen. I started to notice that a lot. I don't know if it's just Boardwalk, because the only other example I have is Boardwalk, where there was something that I knew wasn't going to happen. Now I can't think of the fucking example. I probably mentioned it in the last video, where I was like, oh, well, that plot point obviously isn't going to happen. So there's no way this story is going in that direction, so it's sort of impossible for that to happen. And that's how you feel about the Owen-Margaret thing. Because I'm convinced that Margaret is going to still be in the show, but the ending of the last episode, and then I scrolled through the thumbnails, because I'm a bad boy. I scrolled through the thumbnails of all of the episodes on Binge, and she's not in any of them. Like, I did that sometimes, but, like, I saw Eli was in season 3, so I knew he wasn't going to die in season 2. So there are, like, spoilers in that regard. Like, I've seen Chalky images all the way up into season 4. So when him and Rossetti are standing up, I'm not scared of Chalky at all. And I've seen Nucky and things. But I don't think I've seen Margaret anymore. If Margaret was done with the show, if this was her leaving, I think that would be a fantastic ending. A very ballsy ending to just have her say no to Nucky and walk away. To not have them reconnect after Owen's death. To not have her come back and be her own character. Not that her character was entirely predicated on Nucky's character, but just like, what a ballsy way to not have her get killed off, or to not have a big dramatic thing for her to say no and be like, I'm done with it. I think that's a very ballsy way to end a character, because she very much in season 2 and 3 has become the Betty, the Carmela, the supposedly Skylar, even though I haven't seen Breaking Bad, like, wife archetype of she's kind of annoyingly getting in Nucky's way. And sure, she's much more in the right than Nucky is, but because we're positioned behind him, she's fucking little things up, and it's kind of the sexism angle plays into that as well. Charlie Cox is probably just my eyes wonder. Is it Owen? Yeah. What the fuck was I talking about? My eyes shouldn't have wondered. She was becoming more of like the wife character on one of these like top drama pieces, and for them to sort of be like, we're not doing that anymore, would be interesting. Though I don't know. I honestly don't know if she's going to be in episode 1 of season 4, and this will all be stupid and invalid. What was I looking for? Like retroactively, completely unrelated. I don't know what the word I was looking for, but we'll see. It's very open. The Owen thing was incredible, though, because I think I figured out that he was in the box. No, I was thinking, because I do this sometimes, I'm thinking about writing elements as I'm watching it. I remember watching the box, and I'm like, what if Nucky got a box, and, like, Margaret and the kids were in it dead? And I was like, that would be a fucking shocking, like, thing. Like, could I write that into a story somehow, where the wife and the kids are in the fucking box and the main character goes fucking insane or something? And then it turns out Owen was in the box, and I was like, but especially at the beginning of that episode, like, him and Margaret are like, well, we're gonna leave in like tomorrow or something. So you're like, oh, he's gonna die soon. And then they play the drum beat, the drum like snare or whatever. I don't know shit about music. That they played. I don't remember if it was in season 2 when Jimmy was killing a lot of people, or in season 1 when Jimmy was killing a lot of people. There's something. It was a reoccurring motif because I remembered it. And it was in a scene where a lot of people were getting killed. Like it was at the end of season 1 when all those brothers were getting killed, and Jimmy killed some of them, Al killed some of them, and the such. So I was like, oh, the snare beat is back, or whatever it is. I'm probably describing it wrong, forgive me. Because Owen is in New York, and he's following around the Italian mobster, who was apparently a very big deal. He had been in the previous seasons, and I didn't realize how big of a deal he was. His name's like Fat Joe something or something. I forget his names. But he's always been like telling Lucky that he needs to come with him. And he shit talks Rothstein all the time, but then he's making deals with Rothstein at the end with the heroin. Seeing Lucky get really mad at the end was really cool. I liked that scene a lot. I really like Maya too, whose name I also couldn't remember last time. I've got it now. Their fucking friendship, I'm pretty sure it's going to fall apart at some point. But I like it a lot. It might be like in season 4, because Luciano kind of fucks up at the end of season 3, but his whole thing. I really love him. I really love Luciano. He's one of my favorite characters in the show. If I had a favorite character, who would it be? Like, it unironically, like, might have been one of the love interests. Like, I really liked every time Lucy was on screen, especially in season 1. Season 2, some of the scenes with her, and I still think Van, whatever his name is, the detective, is the weakest part of the show. I don't know, there's something that's always been off. Like, I don't know, episode centered around him. I think his best moment is in season 1, where he's, like, torturing the guy for information with his guts or whatever. I think that was the most interesting his character got. I don't dislike his scenes or anything, but I think it's the least good. I would still say they were good. But my favorite character, it's hard to go past just Nucky as sort of like this. Eli in this season really showed up. I'm trying to talk about Owen here, for fuck's sake. Chalky is also, I think I said Chalky was my favorite character in season 1 and 2. He's still top tier. I think he did get the club at the end of the season, right? I think that'll be something we see going forward. I noticed at the end, like, I was thinking maybe Nucky at the very last... We're going to talk about Owen. In the very last scene of the season, he was going to, like, go into the club, and it had been built, and it would have been a mini time skip or whatever. Because the club obviously gets blown up when Miss Kent dies. But that didn't happen. He just looks out into the water in a mirror, the season 1 ending, where in the end of season 1, he's with Margaret, and they're with the kids, I think, and they're looking out over the beach, and it's like, everything's good. Everything got resolved. But in this one, he's all alone, because Margaret has said no. He has his power back, but he doesn't have his family anymore. But the Owen thing, if we can get back to that, he didn't end up in the club. And then I realized, they don't want to build the fucking club set at the end of season 3. They want to save that for season 4 if it's going to be a real set. So, yeah. The Owen thing, they start playing the drum beat from when everybody was getting killed before. So you're like, is Owen going to kill this dude? Is he going to be successful? Because we're seeing a bunch of things, like Nucky set a bunch of people into different spaces to, like, do things. Like, he sends Doyle to the plant to get it up and running for the dude, and that really cool subplot with the White House subplot is really good. I think it was the introduction of another great character performance of, like, this is such a 20s character, and I didn't even know it was until I heard it, is the dude that works with the Secretary of Defense. I forget what his name is. And I forget his exact title. The presidential cabinet has a bunch of weird names. He's not treasurer, because that's Nucky. That's what Nucky was. But whatever, the White House contact Nucky has that, and then the dude that was getting really nervous ends up killing himself. The other dude that Nucky, like, meets, the fishbowl dude, put the money in the fishbowl. Nucky meets him in the hotel. What a great fucking performance! Absolutely unbelievable. Fucking incredible. Another 10 out of 10 fucking performance on this show. I went on another tangent. They start playing the drum beat when Owen is going into the thing. So you're like, I'm ready. Like, and then they show Owen going into the bathhouse with the FBI contact, who I didn't recognize until he's like, I'm going to show him a badge. And then I was like, he's the FBI contact, of course. I got distracted because my phone went off. I don't know what happened to the FBI dude. I wonder if you could just say, I'm undercover FBI, just let me go. And whether or not they would, because you don't want to kill a federal agent. I don't know what happened to that dude. Maybe he'll show back up in season 4. But they start playing it, so you're like, Owen's like... But the scene cuts off, and you don't see it, and it's very weird, because I think the drum beat starts cutting off too. So you don't really, like... You get into this sense of, oh my god, it's fucking... What's going to happen here? The drum beat is on. Then it cuts away to something else, and then you sort of forget about it, then to come back at the end of the episode, the drum starts again when... we had a whole episode with him, with the assistant dude, with the German assistant dude, and I've forgotten his name again. But he's opening the crate, Margaret comes in through the side, Nucky's like, what the fuck is this? And then they open it up, and he sees it, and you get Nucky's reaction of, like, close that up, don't let her see it. And I immediately was like, Owen's in the fucking box. And they show it, and just the look on his face, and the drum beat comes back in, and it's like, what a fucking moment. Just what a, like, that unsettling drum beat that was, like, our salvation in the end of season 1. has now come back in season 3 and is like, oh, what a moment. What just a like spine-chilling, like creep you out moment. You just think about it every once in a while and you're like, oh. Just an incredibly constructed. Then we get the flashback. Margaret remembers that Margaret is pregnant and she ends up getting an abortion as well. In these dramas, a lot of abortions. I think this is just a Godfather thing of Kay gets an abortion in The Godfather. Betty nearly gets an abortion in season 2 of Mad Men, and here we got the Margaret situation here in Boardwalk Empire. It's a thing. But yeah, so she ends up terminating that pregnancy because she says it's Owen's, because I don't think her and Nucky have a single session, if you will, this whole season, because they're still very distant, and she catches him in the middle of cheating as well, because she goes to the French store from season 1, which we keep going back to, which is cool. I like when we return to characters like that, even if it's just in little moments. And Nucky's there getting a dress, because he comes out and he has a dress, and it's like, oh, maybe he can spin it to say that this is actually a dress for Margaret, and then Kent comes wandering out. God, she was good. Just what a charismatic presence. Just how she captured the 20s aesthetic again, like this caricature in real life. It was so good. Everything about it was so good. Every time she was on screen, it was great. And it sucks that she had to leave us, because she's a fucking seasonal love interest, and these dramas have to fucking have their seasonal love interest. What are they going to do afterwards? But yeah, the Owen moment sticks out in my head. Then we've also got the war starts with Rossetti. He moves in. What a great villain. You just want to see Rossetti get fucked up. I love the whole beginning. It was the most Sopranos thing I think I'd seen. There were last time I talked about the most Sopranos, like, sad, descriptively real, cynical thing was Al laughing along with everybody at Angela's death, even though him and Jimmy were supposed to be good friends. That was the most like, oh, that's a scene right out of The Sopranos, where like Tony just got shot, Carmela needs some money, but Vito and Paulie and everybody are like, fuck her, why does she need this money or whatever. That was always a big Sopranos moment of like, it's like reinforcing these people are like awful and don't really care. I was going to build this up into saying that there was 2 moments in this season that were just like that, or it was very cynical Sopranos things. Oh, the beginning where Rossetti and Nucky almost become friends at the beginning, but there's one slight that Rossetti takes the wrong way, and now he can never forgive Nucky. That's a very Sopranos thing. Of a lot of the bigger conflicts in this, like the whole last season of The Sopranos only happens because like the conflict at the very end of The Sopranos only happens because Carmine Jr. brings up Steve Buscemi's character actually killing Phil Leotardo's younger brother. Like that's the inciting incident, is him just making whatever happened there an iconic scene. He just says that, and then Phil gets mad again, and that's the escalation for the whole conflict at the end of The Sopranos, at the end of the so-called greatest television show of all time. Such a little thing, like bone for tuna over here, and he just can't forgive it. And the commentary is that people are this like Rossetti isn't an anomaly here. Just like people will not let little things go and get annoyed at things like that. And it's so good, and I love it a lot. I could see people criticizing this in The Sopranos for it being very arbitrary and such a little stupid inciting incident, but I think that's like the whole point and why it's so good, of like, yes, these little things set off a chain of events that will result in lots of death and the such. A young Benjamin Siegel is roughed up by Joe Masseria's men. That's the dude. That's the Italian mobster. Who was Benjamin Siegel? Benjamin Siegel. Of course I recognize the name. Oh, that's the dude that's with Lucky and Maya, right? Maya's such a cool name. Where are we up to? The other moment. What the fuck was the other moment? Oh, what about the episode where it's just Jillian and the Jimmy lookalike, so she can fake the death thingy, that was. I'm not saying this derogatorily. Like that's a cool episode, but it was like, whoa, what a crazy fucking episode. There was also a lot of focus on Richard here. He seemingly has a girlfriend now, which is really cute. You're really cheering for them. He seems to have sacrificed the relationship to give Jimmy, not Jimmy. What's Jimmy's son's name? Who? I don't remember. Fuck, I can't remember. It's not Bobby, right? No, Bobby is Don Draper's son. It doesn't matter. To give him a better home, so she and because they meet her father. I forget her name too, and he's like very sad that his son's died. I should have put that together. That this is obviously set up for him to raise Jimmy's son at the end. But Richard seems to have foregone his relationship for the benefit of the kid. I could see that coming back and him redeeming, because he shows up with blood all over him because he takes out everybody. It was very interesting. I haven't really thought about the implications of that. Of like, he shows up and just kills all of Rossetti's men in the fucking in the whorehouse at the end, because Gillian isn't dead, because I think I read the synopsis that Binge puts for season 4 episode 1, and it was like Gillian fights for custody of whatever Jimmy's name is. But yeah, so she's not dead, because she ends up getting the heroin injected into her, because the drowning killed the Jimmy lookalike, not just the heroin shot. But Nucky finds her. Oh, that Gillian scene is incredible too at the end when Nucky finds her. Oh, the implication of Richard killing all the people, and like Nucky's like, I didn't order this, what the fuck? Did he? How did he show up? Why did he show up and kill all those people? Just because they were fucking up the place? I'm not entirely certain about the motivation there. Maybe I missed something that was too subtle, and I'll get it on a second watch. But yeah, usually these things are fleshed out later, of like they'll imply why it happened after the fact, just because you were supposed to pick up on it, and they're just referencing that. So yeah. But the Gillian scene where Nucky finds her and is like, Nucky, that man did terrible things to me, and it's just like a reiteration of like, she is also a very much an abuse victim in this weird fucked up cycle, and going back to the Jimmy thing of none of them ever had a chance because of like mostly what the Commodore did. That's funny. It's kind of an implication that if you think about it, like Nucky is like that too. Like the Commodore is kind of the reason he's super fucked up and everything like that. I also like the part afterwards where we don't see Nucky finding out. Usually I like to see these things. I praise The Sopranos all the time for showing these moments of like Nucky finding out about Owen and his wife. But it's just sort of an implication the next episode. Like he asks Eddie, who is his assistant's name. He's like, Eddie, did you know about them? And because there was talk about that in the previous episode where Owen's like, don't underestimate Eddie, like he sees everything or whatever, which is all cute, which is then set up for Eddie to get shot, and for the episode 11 of the series to be all about, because episode 10 was the episode in season 2 where Angela died, and the episode where Owen, Nugget reveals to Owen that she's pregnant with his baby, and kind of way he's killed by Messeri's men. But yeah. Fuck, what was I talking about before then? Or it's set up for the because on Binge they actually show like the IMDb ratings for the episode, and this episode is the highest rated episode in the entire series. It has like a 9.5. I think Pine Barrens from The Sopranos is like the highest rated TV episode on there, and it's got like a 9.7. So it's pretty high. I don't think that episode was that good. He sort of has to hide out with Chalky and look after Eddie, and it's all really clever and good, and I do like it a lot. I just didn't think it was as good as like most of the episodes around it, or even the episode, the Jimmy episode last season, which I think had like a 9.3 or something. But yeah, him hiding out with Chalky showing loyalty, even though Nucky doesn't treat him the best, is really cool. And then like Nucky, like he's constantly really mean to Eddie in like a funny way sometimes. So he's sometimes laughing at it, and then he's sometimes thinking about the implications of how poorly he treats him. So this is like the payoff to that of him like looking after Eddie, and then he asks Eddie, "Do you have a family?" And Eddie's like, "Yeah, of course I have a family." And Nucky realizing that he's never even talked about his family, he's always worrying about Nucky and all these things. These shows with the morally ambiguous protagonists like to do these things where sometimes they like to show them being really shitty, which Nucky actually has a questionable consent moment, just like Jimmy did with Angela in season 1. With Kent in season 3, which is after he beats up the dude that her and her friend are in her room with, and things like that, and that whole thing. But they like to do the thing where you're like, fucking goddamn it, Nucky. And then they like to do moments like this where you're like totally on their side and very sympathetic for him. And you're like back in like, yes, Nucky's our boy. Let's see him succeed. And this was one of the episodes for Nucky where they show some of that like inherent like loyalty and goodness in him of like doing anything to save Eddie. I like how they bring back Chalky's daughter's boyfriend, who she doesn't like. Back at the end for him to doctor, and Chopper's got a doctor. He's got to take the bullet out of. That's a great scene too, just the gore and what's going on side, and Nucky deciding like, I don't care what happens to me, Eddie has to be saved, because Rossetti comes right up to the door, and he has to decide whether to run away and entirely save himself or leave that up to chance and save Eddie, and he chooses Eddie, and it's a cute little loyal moment. There was something I wanted to go into. Oh, this is another thing I've noticed with this family of shows, if we can call it that, of Mad Men. It's more so a thing in The Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire, where there's a weird descriptive thing about women liking dangerous men a lot. Now, this is obviously a trope and something that has to be true in some. All stereotypes come from a little bit of truth. I think these shows play into it a bit too much, into thinking like, well, obviously Tony Soprano is sexy. He's like a fucking mobster, and that turns women on because the violence does turn women on. This actually, I think, might go back to Goodfellas, because obviously Lorraine Bracco has the monologue in Goodfellas where she's like, I know most of my friends would have turned away and run as soon as their boyfriend gave them a gun, but to be honest, it turned me on, or whatever she says. That might be a thing that these shows have incorporated. David Chase, obviously a big fan of Goodfellas, puts it in The Sopranos. I know there are aspects of that in The Sopranos a lot. I can't think of any examples immediately, though. Mad Men sort of plays into it a little bit, but Mad Men's also much more... I don't want to say woke, because it's not, though it is, but that's not the right word. Much more, Mad Men thinks about what women like a lot more. There's like the whole episode in season 1 about what do women want is sort of like a prime example of this, of sort of like women want the same thing men want. They're just as complicated, sort of thing. That's sort of the conclusion of that episode, but cycling that in, it was just like Chalky's daughter very much wanting, like, not being into this doctor dude because he's very boring, and that her father is much more interesting, for example, because he's like a mobster. And then she sort of learns like the downside of that later in the episode, where the dude gets beaten to death nearly at the place or whatever, Chalky's men. I still really like that the dude that Chalky beat up in prison that one time is like his second-hand man. I like him a lot now. He's great. He's got the golden teeth from when Chalky's boys knocked it out. It was great. Him just pissing on Al's car. We haven't even talked about Al showing up, but yeah. I don't know how I feel about the women always being turned on by, like, because this is even a thing in Kent and Nucky's relationship, where where Nucky's like, what do you want from me? And she's like, I want you to be my mobster or whatever. And then they head off to the bed. I don't know. It's just something I've increasingly noticed, and it's not something I'm like coming down against or being in favor of. It's just an interesting little trend of these types of shows, like that descriptive realism thing about people just being shitty to each other all the time. It's sort of a trend in these shows. We were going to get to something though. Oh, Al showing up at the end of episode 11. I don't know. Oh, we have to talk about Eli too, because him this season is really good. Al shows up at the end of episode 11, right, to be Nucky's savior, basically. He shows up. It's a very cool moment where he's like, how about Hughes and me talk about who lives and who dies, and it's really cool. It's just like everybody rejects him. Rothstein rejects him. Luciano is not going to help. Meyer is not going to help because the Philadelphia trend bend of the show is sort of not in season. It sort of goes into the Van Halen. That's not his fucking name. Van Halden, whatever his name is. The detective who's hiding out and is no longer a detective. He's also in Philadelphia. But Al has one episode, I think. I only remember one episode with his kid gets bullied at school, and then his friend gets made fun of for being fat and smelly, and he kills the one dude in the bar. And then he has the moment with his kid again where he hugs his kid at the end. It's a great episode. Yeah, that's a really great episode. I'm just thinking through it now. So it's where are they going in terms of what's the arc of their season going to be? And Al showing up was the only thing that could happen at the end. I don't think Torrio was down for it. I think Al just sort of went into business for himself. So that's interesting. Al's definitely stepping out of the shadow. I think by the end of the series, he's going to be maybe the biggest mobster in the show because everybody knows Al Capone. I'm sure Luciano will be up there too. Those are two of the most famous mob names, I think. John Gotti and who else? Those are three iconic, recognizable names. More than Nucky Thompson, I think. But yeah. So this is sort of Al coming into his own more and more. But yeah, him showing up at the end is a big of course, here he is to save the day. And then he doesn't really save the day. The war starts. It's just to sort of give him manpower. Them killing all of Masseria's men as they go back. I wonder what, Nucky sort of says, he sends Rossetti's body back and is oh, maybe this will be a peace offering to Masseria. But they also, Al slaughtered all of his guys. When they were retreating. So it'll be interesting to see again how these things play out moving forward. I don't know. What else is there? Eli, of course. Eli comes out of prison. His first scene with Doyle is fucking great. I love it. I love Doyle. Where he's walking and he's not going to get in the car, and then he gets in the car. But Eli has very much got a different attitude this season. He's been in prison for 2 years. He's very much more of a calm individual. Him and Nucky heal their relationship and all that. I'm going to turn the brightness down. But yes, slowly watching them, with the Easter thingy, come back into being on each other's side. And at the end, there's a scene where they're fixing the car and everything like that. Eli's kind of freely admitting that Nucky is the smarter of them, and he doesn't seem to have any bitterness like he always did in the first 2 seasons, which culminated in season 2 with him turning on him and everything like that. Him being on his side at the end, it's all really cool. I really like the Eli stuff this season. It's real good. At the end, I feel like there was something I was about to go into. Fuck. There was a subplot I just remembered. I was I can talk about that, but I think I was going to talk about not necessarily the Remus thing, but all of the, is Rothstein arrested? Because it's a trap him and Eli come up with, or Nucky comes up with. Eli's there on the phone when Rothstein agrees to the deal. So I think Doyle and Rothstein both get arrested. It's implied they're arrested at the end of the season. Which, because Nucky repeats, I'm not going to forget this to Rothstein. But that's in the episode where he's all fucked up, so you don't know if he's actually going to come through. But yeah, the Rothstein, they sort of refuse to have Nucky and Rothstein on the same side. Because it would be a really cool Avengers moment like they had at the end of fucking season 1 where they all came together and turned on the brothers or whatever. And then in season 2 where Torrio, Rothstein, and Nucky all have that meeting in the armory. And it's sort of all of our young fellas are fucking sprouting wings and trying to fuck us over. And sort of them coming together, but I don't know. I wish everybody could get along. I wish there was a big outside threat. We could all join up again. I think all those character interactions would be really fun of Nucky and Rothstein on the same side, but this season is depleting all of that. Because it starts off very much that way. Episode 1 was real good. The party, introducing, because I figured out that obviously Nucky was either going to sleep with Kent or had already been sleeping with her before they revealed it like 3/4 of the way through episode 1. But the way she's introduced, she's with the other performer dude who comes back and they intimidate him, and Chalky and his friend, his second-hand man, intimidate him later. It's really good. That sort of plays into their wanting to do the club thing later. I'm sure they'll have more of a relationship if he performs in the club later. That'll all be cool. But she shows up and just Kent immediately is like, oh, she's so great. She's like on the little dude's shoulder. She's playing off him really well. She drinks Nucky's drink and everything like that. It's just so good. It's just like, oh, what a fucking presence. And then Rossetti is also introduced in the first scene where he kills the dude for implying something. Oh, what about Rossetti decapitating the one dude with the fucking shovel, and things are just getting ultra violent, and like it's a great way. I really haven't talked about Rossetti that much, but just the way of building him up and being like, this dude's fucking insane, but captivatingly so. I always talked about how Ramsay Bolton sort of failed. Like Joffrey kind of succeeded in that, of being like captivatingly. He really didn't do a lot of the violence. Rossetti being like in love with Gillian too is and his kink thing about wanting to be choked or whatever. It's all good. The line they play with the power dynamic in the scene where they nearly hook up is really good, where it's sort of like you almost start sympathizing with Gillian because he seems to be getting really rapey, but then you realize he's talking about himself, and it's sort of like, oh, okay. And then she ends up trying to fucking get him with the heroin to presumably kill him. And then he like outmuscles her and drugs her, and it's sort of like, oh, the power dynamic in this scene, the tension throughout is really fucking good. But they do play up the rape stuff a lot, where it's like all the men are in the brothel and they're not going upstairs or whatever. The tension there is interesting. Remus, all these character performances are so good. Remus, who's Gaston means? Oh. American private detective, salesman, bootlegger. Is this the dude I was talking about? Yes, it is. Okay, so he was a real person. That's interesting. I don't want to look up and see when he dies. And I looked up this girl doesn't have any like other performances. She's so good in Boardwalk. She doesn't even have a picture on her. What do you call it? On a Wikipedia page. Like, why is this actress not in everything? She was so good. But yeah. I don't know. It's really good. Boardwalk Empire is super good. Doyle's an original character. It's kind of bad and cool to look up and see. Like, I was sure Rossetti was a real person. I don't know. I've just heard that name before, I guess. But yeah. Is Margaret Thompson a real person? Is a fictional character. There you go. I don't know. I don't want to just go through the Wikipedia. I don't know if there's anything else to say. I'm sure I missed some subplots. I didn't really talk about the Van Holden thing. Where is he at the end of the season? He does the iron thing and they're going to leave, but then he starts selling alcohol. Did the place he work at just not know his address? Like, why? He should have to like move immediately, right? Because the cops are going to come and be like, you just iron this cunt's face. You're in big trouble. But I think they're still in the same place. And then something happens where Al finds out that he's selling alcohol and puts a fork right into his cheek. I don't remember how that's resolved. Could just be as simple as me forgetting, but... Oh, there's also the Eddie episode at the very beginning. I think it is like episode 2. Where Nucky and Owen hide out. This is the thing where they show like what a prick Nucky is, where he kills the dude who you think is a kid, but he's actually not. He was lying about that. After they hide out in the basement for like a day and a half or whatever, and they get to know each other. That's a really great episode of like, is Nucky gonna kill him? Isn't he? And then like they perfectly play it. Like they say, oh, he says like he's 17 or something at the beginning, But that was a lie. He was actually 19. So at the beginning, you're like, you can't kill him. He's a kid. That would be very bad, Nucky. You're not going to do it. And you can see Nucky sort of think that. And then when he reveals at the end, there's a cigarette thing here where he says he doesn't know how to smoke cigarettes or he's too poor to ever have smoked a cigarette. But at the end, he's smoking cigarettes because he was just playing him. And then Nucky ends up killing him. And Owen's like, I thought we were letting him go. And it's sort of a moment between Owen and Nucky. There are moments of just blatant awkwardness where Nucky says something like to Owen, like, I know what you and my wife are up to or whatever, and he actually doesn't know that they're sleeping together. Mad Men does that a lot where I think it's in like meetings with Duck where Duck is like to Peggy and Pete, like, you two have a secret relationship or whatever. And both of them are like, that's ridiculous because obviously they had a kid together. Spoilers for Mad Men, I guess. But he actually doesn't know and he's just like making a joke about something unrelated. I think that comes from The Sopranos too, where that would happen a lot. The doctor storyline with the fucking dumb fucking priest woman who won't let them say the word vagina. The 20s. What a crazy time to be alive in Atlantic City when allowed to... There's also the abortion... I didn't even think about that until now. The abortion angle with the woman Margaret is trying to help, and then she ends up having the abortion at the end where she was trying to terminate her pregnancy. The implied marital rape situation there. Tragic and stuff. It's very interesting. Boardwalk is incredibly good at the subtle, like, indicators of, like, putting you off somebody. Because you meet their family for a second, and the husband is kind of weird in that scene, and you're like, ooh, there's something off about him. And then you're like, oh... he's kind of maritally raping his wife later on by implication. So it was like, you sort of redeemed. It's just like when Jimmy goes into the photographer's office in season 1, you're like, ooh, something's off here. Clearly there's some awkwardness here, and then that gets paid off later. Remember Angela? Wasn't she great? I'm just remembering now, I saw Treasury and I think about the mayor. There's one scene where the mayor tries to tell the media that he's actually in charge and they all open mouth laugh at him. That was a pretty funny scene. So much about the White House stuff is so good. Like that one dude we were highlighting over here, Stephen Root or whatever. What a fucking... He's in King of the Hill apparently. What a fucking performance. God damn it. I can't wait to see who's new now. I'm hyped myself back up. We're watching episode 1 of season 4 right after this. I actually have to record a football thing right afterwards. I've only been going for 47 minutes. My voice is getting fucking... If we were to do our favourite characters thing, Al's up there, Nucky's up there, Chalky's up there, Rothstein's up there, Luciano's up there. I don't know, I like them all. I like them all is what we're coming down to. There's only 2 seasons left, so there's only actually 20 episodes left because the last season is only 8 episodes. I'm very curious because I know Nucky Thompson, like on his Wikipedia page, he's an older gentleman, so obviously he doesn't die. I know Rothstein dies in the 20s. I saw that on his Wikipedia page, but it was like 28, and this season was all in 23. Third season begins and concludes. I kind of like to look that up because Mad Men would do that a lot. I kind of don't want to look at things too hard. Chalky being on the cover is pretty cool. 4th season, does it have a date thing? No, it doesn't. Fuck me. These 2 people have joined the main cast, but I can't click on their names, so they mustn't be too important, right? I don't want to look anymore, alright? There's probably spoilers on here. I didn't really see any of them. But yeah, I like to know. Mad Men would always confuse me about that, where they would start a lot of episodes on New Year's Eve, and you're like, wait, what year is it? What year is it going to be? How long has passed? You could kind of... There was a tell in the 2nd season where you could tell how long it had been, because somebody was pregnant and the baby hadn't come. Lucy was pregnant and the baby hadn't come yet, so it was under 9 months. So you could sort of tell, it hasn't been that long. But the first season is 21, right? Because it's New Year's Eve, 1920. I don't know. The timeline, I'll figure it more out when we revisit the show later on. Just like with Mad Men. I've got it all down now, I'm pretty sure. But in season 4 of Mad Men, they're like, it's going to be 1965 or something. And you're like, whoa, how long has it been? But there actually is quite a bit of time between season 3 and season 4, so... Fucking Mad Men, you know what I mean? We can talk about that. Overall, in terms of like my favoriteest shows ever, there really is this top 4 battle, I would say, with the 3 shows we've been talking about a lot, and Black Sails, and then Game of Thrones hangs on just because of the strength of the first 3 seasons, plus the 4th one being pretty great, and then the rest, well. Like, if we were just to say that Game of Thrones is a 4-season show, how do I rank those shows? I don't know. I've sort of fallen off my absolute hard eyes with Black Sails just because I haven't thought about it a lot recently. That was the last show before this I watched, and that was like nearly a year ago now, I think. I don't know. I haven't really engaged with much Black Sails since then. The Sopranos I've been rewatching recently. Mad Men is my favorite out of all of these, so it's number 1, and I've watched it like 4 times in like a year and a half. So Boardwalk, I don't know how rewatchable Boardwalk is, just because it is so much more traumatizing than those other shows. I haven't rewatched Black Sails yet, and Black Sails is particularly traumatizing. Black Sails has a much more traumatizing show scene. It's interesting if we talk about that, because there's a very traumatizing... I'll try not to spoil Black Sails. There's a very traumatizing scene with the bloke in the ship, and the under the ship, and all the thingy. And that's like the most violent, like, 20-minute scene I've ever seen of it just, like, beating you to death. There's nothing that viscerally gross to watch in Boardwalk, but the moments itself, like, I think Owen's death or like Angela's death probably affect me more than that moment, just because the character it's not like super sad that character dies. You feel for him and everything, but he's a fucking pirate. He takes it in stride, you know. Angela didn't have to die. She got fucked over at every point in her life. She didn't deserve none of that. Owen, he's kind of a pirate, you know. He's kind of asking for it. He's in the business, but it's still like very visceral. The scenes of him, I don't know. Just because of that scene in Black Sails, the dude is sort of triumphant in the end, and Owen very much is not. Of like, oh, Owen just got like fucked completely. I love that you don't see it in that scene. That's another aspect of what makes it so incredible. Of like, you just see him walking into the, like, we'll take 2, and then he goes to walk into the thing, and you just sort of, it's like, the people say that about horror movies, like, if you make it up in your head, it's a million times worse, of like, what happened. And like, I haven't gone back to watch the scene, but I'm pretty sure he had like markings all over his face or whatever. Like, something crazy might have happened to this fella in there, and it's like, ooh, that's not fun to think about. Whereas you see it all in Black Sails. That's the magic of that scene, right? Of how disgusting it all is. There was a point I was making there about... Oh, because I said this in the last one, but the Boardwalk Empire is much more viscerally violent. Like, I rewatched, like, season 1 of The Sopranos right before starting Boardwalk, and that rewatch has sort of been put on the back burner to watch Boardwalk. But, The Sopranos is, like, a whimsical, funny time, you know? There's sad moments and stuff. Like, what's the most visceral moment in The Sopranos of, like, violence against a character you like? Like, every death, I feel like, even if it's, like, crazy violent, it's sort of played off, like, in Mad Men, like, the absurdity of the dude getting his foot run over by the mower and the blood going everywhere. It's not sort of like, oh, that's so violent. It's like, isn't the world wacky in that sort of way? But, like, the prostitute getting the razor through her face, the Angela thing, the Owen thing here, a bunch of the Rossetti deaths. It's just like a crazy violent. It's just like, oh, this is supposed to fucking traumatize you. Whereas The Sopranos, it's always like a big funny meme. The Sopranos is such a comedy. That's been reinforced to me a lot recently. And Mad Men obviously isn't a violent show, but Boardwalk is like, this violence is serious, and like there is no like levity here. With some of the Rossetti stuff, the violence is abstracted a little bit for it to be like wild and wacky, but like with like the Owen thing and the Angela thing, not at all. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not comfortable saying Boardwalk is better than The Sopranos yet. I don't know. I have to properly rewatch The Sopranos and Black Sails and all these things, but it's definitely up there. I still don't know when Game of Thrones honestly lies if I just think about it with the first 4 seasons, which is like impossible to do. But yeah. I think that might be about it. We don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's only going to get better. I don't know. I have no reason to think it's Harry Doherty. That's the dude. A real politician too. I'd assume he is. I don't want to. There's involvement in something there. I don't want to know that he gets like. Torio is also a fella. The last episode of season 4. The binge thumbnail is Torio in like a hospital bed, not looking so good. So I think Torio might be dying at the end of the next season, and then Al will probably be taking over Philadelphia. Al Capone's not the fella that ends up with. Because I know. No, I think it's a Chicago mobster. Yeah, they are in Chicago. Wait, who's in Philadelphia and who's in Chicago? Al's in Chicago. Philadelphia we do see sometimes. Oh, Waxy Gordon and Boychik. They were in Philadelphia. I think it's a Chicago dude that was one of the dudes that was with Marilyn Monroe all the time, right? Because they did, that's reference to Mad Men. That's why I know about Marilyn Monroe really at all. Of course, everybody knows about Marilyn Monroe, but there's the womanizing thing. That's a whole thing in Mad Men. So I was like, is Al Capone that dude? But I don't think so. Like, if you look at the Al Capone, that is one creepy fucking bloke over there. I don't think he's sleeping with Marilyn Monroe over here. God, Stephen Graham is so good, isn't he? He doesn't have a picture either. What the fuck? There he does. The Irishman. You gotta love it. My voice is starting to hurt. I think I've exhausted all of the topics here. We've nearly gone for an hour. It was supposed to be like 40 minutes, but fuck it. Boardwalk Empire. Real good, everybody. Did you know? Real fucking good. I suppose I'll do one of these after season 4. If not, if I have the urge and don't want to record, maybe I'll do season 4 and 5 as one video. You'll have to wait and see. But with that being said, I think we're ending things over here. I think this is where we say support links in the description below. Thanks.